Christmas Eve dinner at my parents' house in suburban Denver felt like every other holiday gathering for the past 3 years. The familiar weight of disappointment hung in the air thicker than the scent of Mom's glazed ham. I knelt beside the artificial Fraser fir, carefully positioning a hand-painted ornament, while trying to ignore the hushed conversation drifting from the kitchen. Mom's voice carried that particular tone she reserved for discussing family embarrassments with Aunt Carol. "Between jobs again?" She sighed, and I could practically hear her shaking her head. Dad's deeper voice joined the chorus of concern as he nodded gravely, adding that I can't keep steady work. The ornament trembled slightly in my hands as I pretended not to hear their words cutting through the holiday warmth. Suddenly, the soft Christmas music was interrupted by an urgent news bulletin. The CNN anchor's voice filled the living room with breaking news that made my blood turn to ice. Mystery tech founder behind revolutionary encryption software revealed as local Colorado man. The reporter's voice continued as my world began crashing down around me. The elusive founder of CipherVault Technologies, known only as Daniel Cross, has been identified as a 28-year-old resident of Denver. My hands froze on the ornament as Jessica Martinez appeared on screen, standing directly in front of my apartment building on 14th Street. The red brick facade and distinctive green awning were unmistakable. Sources close to the investigation reveal that the mysterious entrepreneur behind the $40 million encryption company actually lives in Unit 212 of this modest apartment complex. Jessica continued, her breath visible in the cold Colorado air. That was my unit, my sanctuary, the place where I had spent countless nights building something incredible, while my family assumed I was struggling to find basic employment. The conversation in the kitchen stopped abruptly. I heard footsteps as Mom, Dad, and Aunt Carol hurried into the living room, drawn by the breaking news. Their faces reflected curiosity rather than concern, completely unaware that their family failure was about to be exposed as something entirely different. Daniel Cross emerged from nowhere 3 years ago. The reporter explained while the camera panned across the building's entrance. His company revolutionized corporate cybersecurity with breakthrough encryption technology that experts say is decades ahead of anything else on the market. 3 years ago, that was exactly when I had lost my marketing position at Meridian Pharmaceuticals, when the company downsized and eliminated my department. While my family watched me spiral into what they perceived as chronic unemployment, I had actually been teaching myself advanced programming languages in my bedroom, surviving on savings and determination. The irony was suffocating. Every family gathering had become an exercise in managing their disappointment. Dad would slip me $20 bills when Mom wasn't looking, whispering encouragement about hanging in there until the right opportunity comes along. Mom would leave care packages outside my apartment door filled with canned soup and instant ramen, convinced I was too proud to ask for grocery money. Meanwhile, CipherVault employed 37 people across 12 states, all working remotely under the leadership of someone they knew only through encrypted video calls and secure messaging systems. Our client list included Fortune 500 companies, government contractors, and international banking institutions. The technology I had developed in my cramped bedroom was now protecting sensitive data for organizations whose annual budgets exceeded the GDP of small nations. Uncle Gary wandered in from the back patio, beer in hand, squinting at the television screen. "Poor kid's probably getting evicted tomorrow," he chuckled, gesturing toward the news coverage. "Reporters camping outside your building is never good for keeping a low profile." If only he knew. I owned my unit, outright purchased 18 months ago, when CipherVault's first major contract with Continental Banking Group had cleared. The mortgage papers listed Logan Matthews as the buyer, but the funds had come from Daniel Cross's carefully managed accounts. My parents' basement, where we were now gathered, contained more sophisticated technology than most university computer science departments. Hidden behind false panels that looked like storage for Christmas decorations, Quantum encryption servers hummed quietly, processing millions of secure transactions every hour. The old boxes that Dad occasionally complained about taking up space actually housed equipment worth more than their house. Mom settled onto the couch, studying the news footage with growing interest. "That building does look familiar," she murmured, tilting her head thoughtfully. "Logan, doesn't that look like your neighborhood?" My throat tightened as I desperately searched for a distraction. "Anyone ready for dessert? I think I smell your famous apple pie finishing up in the oven." But Aunt Carol was already pulling out her reading glasses, examining the screen more carefully. "Patricia, I think that's the same building where we picked Logan up for Thanksgiving last month." The words hung in the air like smoke from a snuffed candle. Before I could formulate a response, Cousin Derek burst through the front door, stamping snow off his boots and unwrapping a thick scarf from around his neck. He had driven down from Phoenix specifically for this Christmas gathering, his first visit to Colorado in over 2 years. "Sorry I'm late, everyone," Derek called out, pulling off his jacket and hanging it in the front closet. Traffic was absolutely brutal coming up from the airport, and then I had to circle around downtown for 20 minutes because some news crew was blocking the street near that apartment building on 14th. The room went silent, except for the television, where Jessica Martinez was now interviewing a cybersecurity expert about the implications of revealing Daniel Cross's identity. Derek stopped mid-stride as he noticed everyone staring at the screen. His eyes moved from the news footage to the faces around him, confusion growing. "Wait a minute," he said slowly, recognition dawning across his features. "That's Logan's building. That's definitely where he lives." Mom's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor in a cascade of red liquid and crystal fragments. "What did you just say?" "That building," Derek repeated, pointing at the television while pulling out his smartphone. "I dropped Logan off right there last Thanksgiving. Unit 212, second floor corner apartment with the balcony facing west." He scrolled through his photo gallery, finding pictures from his previous visit. "See same brick pattern, same entrance, same green awning?" Dad's face had gone completely pale. "Logan," he said quietly, his voice carrying a weight I had never heard before. "Is this true? Do you live in that building?" The family stared at me with expressions ranging from confusion to dawning horror. Aunt Carol pressed her hand against her chest as if struggling to breathe. "Oh my goodness, Logan, are you in some kind of trouble? Are you involved with this Daniel Cross person?" Grandfather William, who had been dozing in his recliner, suddenly became alert and agitated. At 82 years old, he had lived through enough decades to understand that when reporters start camping outside buildings, innocent people often get caught in dangerous crossfire. "Logan, you need to call the police," he declared firmly. "Reporters and criminals, they're all the same. They'll drag you into something that's not your fault." "Grandpa, please calm down," I started, but my voice cracked under the pressure of maintaining a lie that was rapidly becoming impossible. Derek was now comparing his photographs directly to the live news footage, zooming in on architectural details. "This is definitely the same place," he announced with absolute certainty. "Same building number, same lobby entrance, same everything." Mom began crying, tears streaming down her cheeks as she processed the implications. "Logan, have you been lying to us about where you live, about what's happening in your life?" Her voice broke with each question. "Are you in danger? Are you involved in something illegal?" The weight of 3 years of deception crashed down on me. Every Sunday dinner where they had offered financial help. Every job listing they had emailed with encouraging messages. Every worried phone call from Mom asking if I was eating enough. All of it based on a carefully constructed fiction designed to protect them from a truth I thought they couldn't handle. Dad stood up slowly, his face flushed with anger and hurt. "Do you have any idea how many nights your mother has stayed awake worrying about you? How many times I've wanted to call in favors to help you find steady work?" His hands trembled as he spoke. "We've been sending you care packages because we thought you couldn't afford groceries. My sister Amanda, home from her nursing program at University of Colorado, looked between me and the television with growing understanding. "Logan, just tell us the truth," she said gently. "Whatever's happening, we can figure it out together." Uncle Gary had stopped making jokes, his expression serious for the first time all evening. "Kid, if you're mixed up with this Daniel Cross character, you need to be very careful. $40 million attracts all kinds of dangerous attention." The irony was unbearable. They were trying to protect me from myself. My phone started buzzing incessantly. Unknown numbers were calling every few seconds, followed immediately by text messages from reporters who had somehow obtained my personal contact information. The notifications were coming so fast that the screen barely had time to dim between alerts. "I need some air," I mumbled, standing up and heading toward the kitchen. But Derek was already calling out behind me, his voice carrying clearly through the house. "Logan, just admit it. You live in that building, don't you?" The doorbell rang with sharp, insistent chimes that cut through our heated family argument like a blade. Dad moved towards the front door, his face still flushed with anger and confusion, while I felt my stomach drop into my shoes. Through the frosted glass panels, I could see bright lights and the shadows of multiple people gathered on the front porch. Dad opened the door to reveal a full news crew from Channel 7. Harsh camera lights flooded our entryway as Sarah Chen, an investigative journalist I recognized from Denver's evening news, stepped forward with a confident smile. Behind her, a cameraman was already recording, and a sound technician held a boom microphone extended toward our family. "Good evening, I'm Sarah Chen from Channel 7 News," she announced, holding a tablet computer that glowed with official-looking documents. "I'm looking for Logan Matthews, who is also known professionally as Daniel Cross, founder and Chief Executive Officer of CipherVault Technologies." The words hit our living room like a physical blow. Mom gasped audibly, her hand flying to cover her mouth. Dad stepped backward, his eyes wide with shock. Aunt Carol sank onto the couch as if her legs could no longer support her weight. Sarah Chen continued with practiced professionalism, apparently unaware that she was destroying my family's understanding of reality in real time. "Mr. Matthews, we have extensive documentation connecting you to CipherVault Technologies, including corporate registration papers, bank records showing transactions totaling over $47 million, and intellectual property filings for 4 separate patents in cybersecurity technology." She held up the tablet showing digital copies of documents I recognized immediately. My signature on patent applications, financial statements from CipherVault's accounts, corporate registration forms listing Logan Matthews as the sole proprietor of Daniel Cross Enterprises, the parent company that held controlling interest in CipherVault Technologies. These records indicate that you have been operating one of the most successful technology startups in Colorado while maintaining complete anonymity. Sarah continued her camera operator, capturing every moment of my family's stunned reactions. "Our investigation shows that CipherVault Technologies is currently valued at $47.3 million and employs 37 people across multiple states." Mom stood up slowly, her face completely drained of color. $47 million? She whispered, as if the number was too large to comprehend. The tablet screen showed bank statements that made my family's financial struggles look insignificant. Monthly revenue figures that exceeded Dad's annual salary. Investment accounts that could have solved every money worry my family had experienced in the past decade. Patricia began sobbing as the full scope of my deception became clear. "I've been sending you care packages," she choked out between tears. "Ramen noodles and canned soup because I thought you couldn't afford real food." Dad's expression shifted from confusion to deep hurt as he processed the implications. "All those times you borrowed money for rent," he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "All those conversations about helping you find steady work. You let us worry about you for 3 years while you were running a multi-million-dollar company." Amanda stared at me with a mixture of admiration and betrayal. "Logan, why would you keep this secret? Why would you let Mom and Dad think you were struggling? Uncle Gary's demeanor had completely transformed. Where moments before he had been making jokes about my employment situation, now he was calculating something entirely different. "Logan, you could solve my business problems with pocket change," he said, his tone becoming distinctly more respectful. "Why didn't you ever mention that you might be able to help?" Cousin Derek was frantically searching the internet on his smartphone, pulling up articles about CipherVault technologies and reading aloud. "Listen to this. CipherVault's encryption protocols are used by Continental Banking Group North Star defense contractors and the Colorado state government. The founder, Daniel Cross, has been described as a visionary who revolutionized corporate cybersecurity." Grandfather William had become increasingly agitated, his wartime experiences making him suspicious of any situation involving secrecy and large sums of money. "Logan, are you working for foreign governments? Is this company a front for something dangerous?" Sarah Chen gave me exactly 30 seconds to respond before her cameraman adjusted his equipment for a live broadcast. "Mr. Matthews, we're going live in half a minute. Would you like to comment on your company's success and your decision to maintain anonymity while living in your hometown?" The weight of the moment pressed down on me like a physical force. 3 years of carefully constructed lies were collapsing in real-time broadcast live to thousands of viewers across Colorado. My family's trust, my company's security, my personal safety, and my professional reputation all hung in the balance of whatever words I chose next. Mom continued crying while Dad stood frozen in the doorway, apparently unable to process the magnitude of what was happening. The bright camera lights made everything feel surreal, like we were actors in someone else's drama, rather than a family dealing with a crisis that would change our relationships forever. My phone buzzed with an incoming message marked urgent and encrypted. Only 3 people had access to send messages through that particular security protocol: my head of security, my lead developer, and my business partner, Marcus Thompson. The message appeared on my phone screen in stark white text against a black background encrypted with the highest level security protocols that CipherVault had developed. It was from Alex Rivera, my head of security, and the timestamp showed it had been sent just moments ago. "Emergency Marcus orchestrated media exposure. Security footage confirms 3 meetings with Channel 7 reporter over past month. Board vote scheduled tomorrow morning. Protocol Phoenix may be necessary." My blood turned cold as the implications became clear. Marcus Thompson, my business partner and chief operating officer, had deliberately orchestrated this public exposure. While Sarah Chen and her camera crew continued filming my family's shocked reactions, I realized that this media ambush was not investigative journalism, but corporate warfare. The commercial break gave me a momentary reprieve, and I stepped into the kitchen while pulling up additional encrypted messages from Alex. Security camera footage from the Marriott downtown showed Marcus meeting with Sarah Chen on 3 separate occasions: December 3rd, December 10th, and December 18th. Each meeting had lasted over an hour, and financial records showed unusual payments from an account linked to Marcus's personal consulting firm. My hands shook as I scrolled through additional intelligence that Alex had compiled. Marcus had been systematically building alliances with 3 board members over the past 6 weeks, convincing them that my preference for anonymity made me unsuitable for leading a high-growth technology company. According to CipherVault's corporate bylaws, if the chief executive officer became a public liability that threatens company stability, the board could vote to implement emergency leadership changes. The timing was calculated perfectly. Christmas Eve would catch me surrounded by family emotionally vulnerable and unable to access my full corporate resources. The media exposure would create the exact kind of public scrutiny that our corporate bylaws identified as grounds for emergency action. Worse yet, Marcus had already prepared the legal paperwork necessary to assume control of CipherVault Technologies. Alex's investigation revealed that Marcus had been working with corporate attorneys for weeks, drafting documents that would transfer operational control of the company to him while positioning my removal as a necessary step to protect shareholders and employees. My family's voices drifted in from the living room as they continued processing the revelation of my secret identity. But their emotional crisis had suddenly become secondary to a much larger threat. Everything I had built over the past 3 years was being systematically stolen by someone I had trusted completely. Another encrypted message appeared on my phone, this one from Janet Walsh, the only board member who had consistently supported my leadership approach. Her message was brief but urgent. Emergency vote scheduled for December 26th at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Marcus claims you've become compromised by media attention. 3 board members already committed to supporting leadership change. Need immediate response. The scope of Marcus's betrayal became clear as I connected the pieces. He had hired private investigators to trace my personal life, identifying my family and my address. He had fed information to journalists while positioning himself as the stable professional alternative to my supposedly erratic leadership style. He had even timed the exposure for a holiday weekend when most board members would be traveling and unable to gather for proper deliberation. Patricia appeared in the kitchen doorway, her eyes red from crying, but her expression determined. "Logan, whatever's happening, we're your family. We'll figure this out together." Robert followed behind her, his anger apparently replaced by concern as he began understanding that something much larger was unfolding. "Son, talk to us. What kind of danger are you facing?" The irony was overwhelming. For 3 years, I had protected my family from the potential risks associated with running a high-profile technology company. I had maintained my anonymity specifically to keep them safe from the kind of attention that successful entrepreneurs often attract. Now my efforts to shield them had created vulnerabilities that Marcus was exploiting to destroy everything I had accomplished. Amanda joined us in the kitchen, her nursing training apparently helping her recognize signs of genuine crisis. "Logan, you're shaking. What's happening that we don't understand yet?" The camera crew was setting up for their next live segment, and I could hear Sarah Chen preparing to broadcast additional details about CipherVault Technologies. Every moment of delay gave Marcus more opportunities to solidify his position with the board and present my media exposure as evidence of poor judgment and compromised leadership. My phone rang with a call from Marcus himself. The display showed his name and the photo I had assigned to his contact. Marcus grinning at our company retreat 6 months ago, back when I had trusted him completely. I let Marcus's call go to voicemail while making a decision that would either save my company or destroy it completely. "I need to go downstairs." I told my family, my voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through my system. "I'll explain everything, but first I need to protect what we've built." Mom, Dad, and Amanda followed me down to the basement, their confusion evident as we descended the wooden steps into what they believed was just storage space for holiday decorations and old furniture. The familiar scent of concrete and electrical equipment filled the air as I led them past the washing machine and water heater toward the back corner that had been my secret command center for 3 years. Behind a false panel disguised as shelving for Christmas ornaments, my true office revealed itself. 3 large monitors flickered to life as biometric scanners verified my identity through fingerprint and retinal recognition. Quantum encryption servers hummed quietly in climate-controlled cases that maintained optimal temperature and humidity levels. The setup rivaled anything found in major corporate headquarters, all hidden beneath my parents' suburban home. "Oh my God," Amanda whispered, staring at the sophisticated technology array. "Logan, this is incredible." Dad's expression showed a mixture of amazement and hurt. "You've been running a company from our basement for how long?" 3 years. I admitted while typing commands into the primary terminal. "Everything started down here. All the code, all the business development, all the client relationships." "Oi." Mom reached out tentatively to touch one of the monitors, her fingers trembling slightly. $47 million worth of business from our basement. I accessed the Protocol Phoenix interface, a fail-safe system I had built into CipherVault's core architecture, when the company was still just an idea. Protocol Phoenix was designed to protect the company from exactly the kind of corporate coup that Marcus was attempting. Only I possessed the biometric authentication necessary to activate it, and once triggered it would transfer all operational control to secure servers that only I could access. "Logan, what are you doing?" Amanda asked, watching lines of code scroll across the screens. "Protecting our employees," I said, initiating the security protocol. "Marcus is trying to steal the company. If he succeeds, he'll move operations to Silicon Valley and fire everyone who works remotely. 37 people will lose their jobs right after Christmas." The system requested final confirmation for Protocol Phoenix activation. This was the nuclear option designed to completely freeze all company operations except for essential client services. It would lock Marcus out of every system while providing ironclad evidence of his attempts to manipulate board members and orchestrate unauthorized media exposure. As I entered the final authentication codes, automated auditing systems began analyzing financial records for irregularities. Within seconds, red alerts appeared across multiple screens. The system had detected 14 instances of suspicious financial activity connected to Marcus's departmental accounts over the past 6 months. "What's that?" Dad asked, pointing to the financial alerts scrolling across the left monitor. "Marcus has been embezzling money," I said, reading the audit results in real time. Small amounts from client payments, probably hoping I wouldn't notice because the company has been growing so quickly. The evidence was comprehensive and damning. Marcus had been skimming funds from client contracts, redirecting portions of payments to accounts controlled by his consulting firm. The total amount exceeded $800,000 spread across dozens of transactions designed to avoid triggering automated fraud detection systems. My phone rang with an incoming secure video call from Janet Walsh. I accepted the connection, and her face appeared on the center monitor. She was calling from her family's cabin in Aspen with snow-covered mountains visible through the window behind her. "Logan, I've been trying to reach you," Janet said urgently. "Marcus called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning claiming you've been compromised by media attention and are no longer fit to lead the company." "Janet, I'm transmitting financial audit data to your secure terminal right now," I replied, uploading the embezzlement evidence through encrypted channels. Marcus has been stealing from client accounts for months. Additional board members began joining the video conference as I sent them emergency access codes. Dr. Elizabeth Kumar connected from her home in Seattle. James Robertson logged in from a hotel in Miami, where he was vacationing with his family. Within 10 minutes, 5 of our 7 board members were online, reviewing the evidence of Marcus's financial crimes and media manipulation. "This is absolutely unacceptable," Dr. Kumar declared after examining the audit reports. "Marcus not only orchestrated unauthorized media exposure, but has been systematically stealing from the company." James Robertson's background showed a hotel room where he had apparently set up a makeshift office on the bed. "Logan, the board owes you an apology. We should never have considered an emergency vote based solely on Marcus's recommendations." Patricia, Robert, and Amanda watched in stunned silence as I commanded the respect and attention of accomplished business executives from around the country. The basement command center had transformed from a secret shame into evidence of my genuine achievements and leadership capabilities. My phone buzzed with frantic text messages from Marcus as he realized he had been locked out of all CipherVault systems. Protocol Phoenix had frozen his access while preserving all evidence of his attempts to manipulate company operations. The sound of car doors slamming in the driveway interrupted our emergency board meeting. Through the basement windows, I could see the distinctive black SUVs and unmarked sedans that typically indicated federal law enforcement presence. My phone immediately rang with a call from Alex Rivera, my head of security. "Logan, FBI agents are approaching your parents' house," Alex reported. "They have a warrant for Marcus Thompson's arrest. His embezzlement triggered federal wire fraud statutes because client payments crossed state lines. Within minutes, there was authoritative knocking at the front door upstairs. Dad looked at me questioningly, and I nodded for him to answer. We could hear official voices identifying themselves as FBI agents, Thomas Bradley and Maria Santos, requesting to speak with Logan Matthews regarding an ongoing investigation into Cipher Vault technologies. "Should we be worried?" Mom asked, her voice tight with anxiety. "No," I assured her, saving the board meeting session and preparing to go upstairs. "They're here because Marcus committed federal crimes. We're the victims, not the suspects." The family followed me up from the basement as I went to meet with the agents. Thomas Bradley was a tall man in his 40s, with graying hair and a professional demeanor that immediately put everyone at ease. Maria Santos appeared to be in her 30s, carrying a leather briefcase and tablet computer loaded with case files. "Mr. Matthews, thank you for your cooperation with our investigation." Agent Bradley began, after showing his credentials and explaining the situation. "Your head of security, Alex Rivera, provided us with evidence that Marcus Thompson has been engaged in corporate fraud and potentially treasonous activity. The scope of Marcus's crimes extended far beyond simple embezzlement. FBI investigation had revealed that Marcus was selling client data to overseas competitors while planning his hostile takeover of Cipher Vault. Several of our corporate clients included government contractors and defense industry companies, making the data theft a matter of national security. Marcus faces federal charges that could result in a 20-year prison sentence, Agent Santos explained while reviewing her case files. Wire fraud, corporate espionage, conspiracy to commit theft of trade secrets, and violation of the Economic Espionage Act. Patricia sat down heavily on the couch, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she was learning about her son's professional life. "Logan, you've been protecting information important to national security from our basement. Cipher Vault's encryption protocols are used by companies that handle classified government contracts." I confirmed. Marcus was selling access to that technology to foreign corporations. Robert's expression had completely transformed from anger to pride mixed with concern. "Son, I had no idea you were involved in anything this important. Why didn't you tell us?" The question hung in the air as Amanda, Aunt Carol, Uncle Gary, and Cousin Derek gathered around to hear my explanation. Even Grandfather William had positioned his chair closer, his earlier suspicions about foreign involvement proving partially correct. "I was trying to protect you," I said simply. "Technology entrepreneurs face risks that I didn't want to bring into your lives. Death threats, corporate espionage, kidnapping attempts, blackmail. I thought if you didn't know about Cipher Vault, you'd be safer." Tears filled Mom's eyes again. But these were different from her earlier emotional breakdown. "Logan, we're your family. We should face those risks together, not leave you to handle everything alone." Dad stepped forward and pulled me into a firm embrace, something he hadn't done since I was a child. "I'm proud of what you've accomplished," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry we made you feel like you had to hide your success from us." The board meeting resumed via secure video conference with FBI agents participating to provide legal context for Marcus's crimes. The vote was unanimous. Marcus would be immediately terminated from all positions within Cipher Vault Technologies, with his stock options forfeited due to criminal activity. Agent Santos received a call confirming that Marcus had been arrested at his home in Boulder. He was being charged with multiple federal crimes and would remain in custody pending trial. The evidence was overwhelming, and prosecutors expected him to accept a plea agreement rather than risk a longer sentence at trial. "Logan, there's something else you should know," Agent Bradley said as the FBI team prepared to leave. "Your decision to maintain anonymity actually helped our investigation. Marcus thought he was the only person with access to sensitive company information, so he got careless about covering his tracks. The irony was perfect. My secretiveness, which had caused so much family pain, had ultimately helped expose Marcus's crimes and protect the company's future." Uncle Gary approached me with genuine humility, his earlier joking completely replaced by respect. "Logan, I owe you an apology for all those comments about finding steady work. I had no idea you were building something this important." Cousin Derek shook his head in amazement. "When I was complaining about my job in Phoenix, you could have offered me a position any time. Why didn't you?" "Because I wanted people to succeed based on their own merits," I replied. "Cipher Vault hires based on skills and character, not family connections." My phone rang with call after call from major technology companies offering partnership deals and acquisition proposals. The positive media coverage of my cooperation with federal law enforcement had increased Cipher Vault's public profile dramatically, and our stock value had risen 40% in a single day. Amanda hugged me tightly, whispering in my ear, "I'm proud of you for doing the right thing, even when it was complicated." As the FBI agents gathered their materials and prepared to leave, Agent Santos handed me her business card. "Mr. Matthews, your company's cooperation has been exemplary. If you're ever interested in government consulting work, the Cybersecurity Division would welcome Cipher Vault's expertise." The family gathered around me as the law enforcement vehicles pulled out of the driveway, their mission complete. For the first time in 3 years, I was surrounded by people who knew exactly who I was and what I had accomplished. The weight of secrecy had been lifted, replaced by genuine support and understanding. 6 months later, I stood on the deck of the Mountain View Conference Center in Estes Park, Colorado, watching 37 employees of Cipher Vault Technologies meet face-to-face for the first time. The June morning was crisp and clear, with the Rocky Mountains providing a stunning backdrop for our company retreat. For 3 years, we had operated as a completely distributed team, connected only through secure video calls and encrypted messaging systems. Now, seeing everyone together in person felt like witnessing a family reunion. Mom and Dad sat at a table near the main lodge wearing name tags that identified them as Logan's parents, and chatting comfortably with employees who had driven from across the country to attend. Patricia was deep in conversation with Lisa Chen, our lead developer from Portland, comparing stories about raising children in the technology industry. Robert had found common ground with Jake Morrison, our security specialist from Atlanta, discussing the similarities between manufacturing quality control and cybersecurity protocols. The transformation in our family relationships had been remarkable. Once Mom and Dad understood the scope and importance of what I had built, their worry had evolved into fierce pride and support. Mom had started volunteering with the Denver Senior Center, teaching digital literacy classes using simplified versions of Cipher Vault's encryption software. Dad had accepted an invitation to join our advisory board, bringing his decades of manufacturing experience to help Cipher Vault develop more efficient operational procedures. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention?" I announced, stepping up to the microphone that had been set up near the main gathering area. 6 months ago, most of you knew me only as a voice on secure video calls or encrypted messages signed by Daniel Cross. Today, I want to share something that represents the future of Cipher Vault Technologies. The crowd quieted as I opened a leather portfolio containing legal documents that had been months in preparation. Effective immediately, Cipher Vault Technologies is restructuring as an employee-owned cooperative. Every person who works for this company will become a partial owner with profit-sharing distributions based on tenure and contribution to our collective success. The announcement triggered enthusiastic applause and cheering from employees who had never expected to become business owners. Sarah Kim, our client relations specialist from Phoenix, wiped away tears of joy. Marcus had planned to eliminate remote positions and relocate everyone to Silicon Valley, but instead Cipher Vault was empowering its distributed workforce with genuine ownership stakes. Additionally, I continued, we're establishing the William Matthews Memorial Scholarship Fund, named in honor of my grandfather, to provide technology education opportunities for military families transitioning to civilian careers. Grandfather William, now 83, and sitting proudly in the front row, beamed with satisfaction as employees applauded the announcement. His wartime service had taught him the importance of helping veterans adapt to peacetime challenges, and the scholarship fund would honor that legacy while supporting families facing economic transitions. Amanda approached the microphone as I finished the formal announcements. She had graduated from her nursing program with honors and accepted my offer to establish a community health clinic in an underserved neighborhood of Denver. CipherVault's charitable foundation would fund the clinic's operations, providing free health care to families who couldn't afford traditional medical services. My brother taught me that success means using your resources to lift up other people, Amanda said, addressing the gathered employees. The Matthews Health Center will serve anyone who needs care, regardless of their ability to pay. That's the kind of leadership Logan has always demonstrated, even when our family didn't understand what he was accomplishing. Janet Walsh, our board chairwoman, took the microphone to provide updates on Marcus's legal situation. He had ultimately accepted a plea agreement requiring him to serve 18 months in federal prison and pay $3.2 million in restitution to CipherVault and affected clients. The funds would be distributed among employees as bonuses and invested in expanding our cybersecurity research capabilities. Marcus's betrayal taught us important lessons about trust and verification, Janet explained to the group. CipherVault now has enhanced oversight procedures and ethical guidelines that will prevent anyone from exploiting their position for personal gain. The afternoon included team-building activities, technical workshops, and informal conversations that strengthened relationships among employees who had worked together for years without meeting in person. Dr. Kumar led a session on emerging threats in cybersecurity, while James Robertson discussed expansion opportunities in international markets. As evening approached, the group gathered around a fire pit for dinner and relaxed conversation under the Colorado stars. Lisa Chen shared stories about learning programming while raising twin daughters. Jake Morrison talked about his transition from military service to cybersecurity work. Sarah Kim described her experience helping clients protect sensitive financial data from increasingly sophisticated threats. "Logan, can you tell us how this all started?" asked David Park, our newest hire, who had joined CipherVault just 2 months ago. "What made you decide to build this company?" I looked around at the faces illuminated by firelight people who had taken risks to join a company led by someone they had never met in person. "It started with failure," I said honestly. "I lost my job at a pharmaceutical company and spent months feeling like I had disappointed everyone who believed in me. But that failure forced me to discover capabilities I didn't know I possessed." The story continued as I described those early days in my parents' basement, teaching myself advanced programming concepts and gradually developing the encryption protocols that would become CipherVault's foundation. The breakthrough had come during a particularly difficult week, when I was questioning whether to give up and look for traditional employment. I realized that conventional cybersecurity approaches were fundamentally flawed, I explained. Companies were trying to build higher walls instead of developing adaptive defense systems. CipherVault's success came from thinking differently about how to protect information in an environment where threats constantly evolve. Patricia joined the circle around the fire, carrying hot chocolate for everyone, and settling into a chair next to her husband. "Logan never told us what he was working on," she said with a gentle smile. "We spent 3 years worried that he couldn't find steady employment when he was actually building something that would employ dozens of people and protect important information for major corporations." The conversation turned to lessons learned and future goals. Employees shared their experiences working for a company that prioritized ethical practices and employee welfare over maximum profit extraction. Several people mentioned turning down job offers from larger technology companies because they valued CipherVault's culture and mission. "What's next for CipherVault?" asked Jennifer Walsh, Janet's daughter, who had recently joined our legal team after completing her law degree with a specialization in environmental regulations. Jennifer and I had begun spending time together outside of work, discovering shared interests in hiking classical music and sustainable business practices. "We're going to continue growing while maintaining our values," I replied. Employee ownership ensures that success benefits everyone who contributes to our achievements. We'll expand our client services while investing in research that keeps us ahead of emerging threats. The retreat concluded on Sunday morning with a breakfast celebration and group photo session. Employees exchanged contact information for personal friendships that extended beyond professional relationships. Several people made plans to visit Colorado again for hiking trips and family vacations. As the group prepared to return to their home cities, I gathered my family for a private conversation on the lodge deck. The mountains stretched endlessly in every direction, reminding me of the vast possibilities that lay ahead for all of us. I learned something important over the past 6 months. I said, addressing Mom, Dad, Amanda, and the extended family members who had stayed for the entire retreat. I thought protecting people meant keeping secrets from them. But real protection comes from trusting people with the truth, even when it's complicated. Patricia reached over and squeezed my hand gently. "We learned something too," she replied. Success isn't about having a traditional career path or meeting other people's expectations. It's about using your talents to make a positive difference in the world. Robert nodded in agreement. I spent so many years worrying that you couldn't find steady work when you were actually creating work for dozens of other people. I'm proud of what you built, but I'm even more proud of how you built it. Amanda added her perspective as someone who had chosen a career in service rather than pursuing maximum financial reward. The clinic is already helping families who had nowhere else to turn for healthcare. That wouldn't have been possible without your success. But more importantly, it reflects values that you maintained even when you were building a major company. The drive back to Denver provided time for reflection on how dramatically our family relationships had evolved. Secrets and shame had been replaced by mutual respect and genuine understanding. Financial concerns that had dominated family conversations for years had given way to discussions about how to use resources responsibly and ethically. 1 year later, our family Christmas Eve dinner bore no resemblance to the tense gathering where everything had changed. The same artificial Fraser fur dominated the living room, but the conversations around it reflected confidence and shared purpose rather than disappointment and worry. Cipher Vault Technologies had grown to employ 62 people across 15 states, with client contracts spanning Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and international organizations. The employee ownership structure had created genuine prosperity for everyone involved, while our ethical guidelines ensured that success never came at the expense of our values. Mom's digital literacy program had expanded to serve 8 senior centers across Colorado, helping hundreds of elderly residents stay connected with family members and access online services safely. Dad's manufacturing expertise had helped Cipher Vault streamline operations and improve product quality, earning him recognition as a valuable advisory board member. Amanda's clinic had treated over 1,500 patients in its first year of operation, providing healthcare services that would otherwise have been unavailable to low-income families. The Matthews Health Center had become a model for community-based medical care funded through technology industry philanthropy. Jennifer and I had developed a relationship built on shared values and genuine compatibility, supporting each other's professional goals while enjoying personal adventures throughout Colorado's wilderness areas. Her environmental law expertise complemented Cipher Vault's growing focus on sustainable business practices and corporate responsibility. As we gathered around the Christmas tree that had witnessed my secrets revelation, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this point. The ornament that had trembled in my hands 12 months ago now hung securely on a branch, surrounded by new decorations representing the people and experiences that had enriched our lives. "I need to say something to all of you," I announced as the family settled into chairs around the living room. The greatest encryption I ever built was around my own heart, protecting my feelings and achievements from the people who mattered most. Breaking that code saved everything I actually valued. The room was quiet, except for the soft crackling of logs in the fireplace and the gentle hum of heating systems maintaining comfortable warmth against the Colorado winter. Patricia and Robert sat together on the couch, where they had received the shocking news of my double life, now completely comfortable with who I had become and what I had accomplished. Success means nothing if you can't share it with people who matter most. I continued. I learned that protecting people sometimes means trusting them with difficult truths, even when those truths are complicated and potentially dangerous. Amanda smiled as she adjusted ornaments on the tree, her nursing career providing daily opportunities to apply the values of service and compassion that had guided our family's transformation. The best part is that we're all doing work that helps other people, she said. Success feels different when it creates opportunities for everyone instead of just accumulating wealth. Uncle Gary and Cousin Derek had driven down from Phoenix for this Christmas gathering, their relationships with me completely transformed by understanding and mutual respect. Gary's small business had grown significantly after implementing cybersecurity protocols developed by CipherVault, while Derek had accepted a position with our Phoenix office, developing client relationships throughout the Southwest. Grandfather William, approaching his 84th birthday, had become something of a celebrity among CipherVault employees, who appreciated his wartime stories and practical wisdom about leadership during crisis situations. The scholarship fund bearing his name had already provided technology education opportunities for 47 military families transitioning to civilian careers. As the evening progressed toward midnight and the official arrival of Christmas Day, I looked around at faces that reflected contentment, purpose, and genuine happiness. The fear and disappointment that had characterized previous family gatherings had been replaced by confidence in our shared future and pride in our collective achievements. The television remained on, but instead of bringing shocking news that would disrupt our lives, it provided background ambiance for conversations about upcoming travel plans, professional projects, and personal goals for the coming year. Sarah Chen occasionally appeared on screen as part of Channel 7's regular news programming, and we would smile, remembering the night she had inadvertently helped expose the truth that brought our family closer together. CipherVault's success had created opportunities that extended far beyond financial rewards. Our company had become a model for ethical business practices in the technology industry, demonstrating that employee ownership and social responsibility could coexist with competitive performance and sustained profitability. The future stretched ahead with unlimited possibilities for continued growth and positive impact. New client relationships would expand our reach while maintaining the quality standards that had built our reputation. Research investments would keep us ahead of emerging threats while developing innovations that benefited the broader cybersecurity community. Most importantly, our family had learned that love and support are strengthened rather than weakened by honest communication, even when that communication involves admitting mistakes, acknowledging fears, and sharing dreams that seem impossible until they become reality. As midnight approached and Christmas Day officially arrived, I realized that the greatest gift I could offer my audience was the lesson that had transformed my own life. Authenticity creates deeper connections than any performance or pretense ever could. Have you ever kept a secret that was meant to protect people you love, only to discover that the secret itself was creating the distance you were trying to prevent? I'd love to hear your thoughts about balancing protection with honesty in the comments below. If this story resonated with your own experiences of family dynamics and personal growth, please like this video to help others discover it. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about overcoming challenges through courage and authenticity, and share this with anyone who might benefit from understanding that our greatest strength often comes from trusting others with our truth. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery, and I hope your own family relationships continue growing stronger through honest communication and mutual